In a city, in a particular certain part of the city where it's known to have famous people being raised there, there's a man who had a dream.
I'm Van Stone from the Philadelphia Front Page News. I'm also the editor, publisher, and owner of other magazines around the city of Philadelphia.
Before being a major part of his community, he had to start somewhere.
My childhood was pretty good. I was in a special all boys class. Back then in 1968, it was different here, of course, in Philadelphia or around the country. I'm a 1960s baby dealing with civil rights and so forth. The icons at that time, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and also James Baldwin. Those are the three that really kept my attention going when I was a child. And before the assassinations had happened with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and we still had the enduring legacy of James Baldwin, that's what led me to want to do more. So as a child actor, actually was doing media as a child in elementary school, and we were doing plays, and we were also doing radio, and we were doing television as well. So I was trained to do this, as an elementary school, first and second grade student. Now, as far as difficulties and traumas that I've been through, yes, I come from a broken home after the 12th, being 12 years old and going into the 7th grade. My parents broke up. That was very difficult for me to try to understand what to do and how to survive, which pretty much, thank goodness, of being in the special classes in elementary. Regular job, 14, I was a professional counselor, worked in the local YMCA. And there, even though I was 14 years old, I was able to be a counselor, help children with their issues and problems, but also with activities and fun and showing them how to keep busy and work with very little. So at that time when I was working at the Y, the resources were limited, and you just have the basic sports materials. So we had to really be creative. That was the thing to helping the young people to create games and things like that without, having a lot of money to spend on games. So fun games, hide and seek, these are old games, but there were a lot of other games that the kids were not used to playing, and with role models. So a game would be acting as well. And then having them to draw and create their own concept.
Van Stone was a person who had a dream, like the rest of us who have a dream and want our dream to become reality.
Philly Funk Radio is part of a partnership radio station with another affiliate, but creating that so that we can have all of the listeners and followers, but also we have news content and weather content, which is very important. Called Van Stone Digest. It was a weekly show, for about an hour. We had different guests come in and talk and ask questions, or they would just update us on things that we don't know, what's happening around the city, but not just necessarily the city of Philadelphia. It could be any state. And that's why I wanted to go internet access. And so it allows us to have people all over the country, any state, and also international, from Dominican Republic to just other locations outside of the country, even Africa. They could listen to the station.
Van Stone doesn't do this alone. Let's meet the man who helps Van Stone.
Well, actually, Van Stone is a partner. He actually helped me set up Philly Funk Radio. He was actually part of the original concept of Philly Funk Radio, which was conceptualized back in 2013. And originally, Philly Funk Radio was broadcasting from Van Studios. And then later on, of course, we got our own studio. So yeah, he's been instrumental in the creation as well as maintaining what's going on right now.
Let's meet the other people who also contribute to Van Stone's life and career.
I occasionally go onto that podcast, not too often. As a special guest, I've become a bit of a regular there, where we discuss matters, usually politics.
I get his good vibes, man, and assists when he can. Pretty decent guy.
Organizations, I've been knowing Van Stone for a long time, and he's seen some of the things that I was doing at the time when we met, and we, pretty much what he was doing with different organizations and the different things that he brought to the table. I thought it was very, very nice, and what he contributed to the city and the community and the kids. So
greatly appreciative to be a part of the Van Stones Corporation. I've been working with him for many years and off and on, and he does a lot with the mayors, the children, just helping our children stay more strong in their beliefs and just more positive in their living the way they think. So, I mean, he's a great guy who, has been out here for many years, and he is no one that does.
You either have good vibes or you have bad vibes. And we basically had good vibes. It was a very productive time. We covered a wide variety of topics. I was a bit more on the conservative side. He was on the more progressive side and balanced. And basically, we had other guests who came on who were of different opinions. So it was really a blend of different personalities coming together. And Van pioneered and was able to maintain a very good working relationship with the various members.
If you're interested to want to listen to Philly Funk Radio, it's www.phillyfunkradio.com. Van Stone is involved in a program called Reading Captains as a block leader.
So being a reading captain, that means that taking the title of a captain, the captain is usually the leader of a group, but is an independent individual who also encourages others. And that's what the Reading Captains is about. Encouraging kids to read, encouraging their parents to encourage kids to read. And you really don't have to read a book to them, but trying to get the kids to read books themselves. And that's what the Reading Captains became a Philadelphia thing for me. And the citywide representative of the Reading Captains, that's who I am, dealing with the Philadelphia Free Library and also the Philadelphia School District. That's how that came about.
Let's get other people's perspective on Reading Captains.
Reading Captains is, it's like an event where you're able to go onto a Zoom meeting. There's a lot of other people there, and someone will read whatever book is chosen for that session to the very end. Everyone else will stay and they'll listen throughout the entire reading.
Well, initially the interest was the Reading Captains because in my own particular past, I was always involved with things that had to do with literacy. So collaborating with Van Stone Productions, that was the entry point. That was just the easiest for me to apply myself to doing some collaborative things with him.
First of all, the Reading Captains is there to encourage people, encourage young people most of all, the importance of reading. You can read a book and you can go anywhere or around the world or across the universe simply by reading. And I got involved with that a little over a year ago. And ever since then, we've been very diligent in participating in helping young people see the importance of reading and sharing.
But the Reading Captains program is actually very important to teach literacy in the Philadelphia area because, I found from working at various places that there are a lot of people that actually are my age. I'm almost 52 that have trouble reading, and just some of them can't even read at all. So the Reading Captains program is instrumental for both, again, children and adults for literacy. Literacy is the key to getting out of poverty. And I think we need that, and it's a good program in the community.
Van Stone and his son Chef Stone do a show and a comic book strip called Heroes of the Last Q, which they teach and entertain children, showing diversity through storytelling.
Comic strips called Heroes of the Last Q. That's based on part of my story, and of course, Blacks in Space, giving Blacks the really opportunity to get more awareness. And even currently, here now in 2026, we have a new comics card, just like a baseball card. So we have different characters, my own original characters with themes, and especially tying in from Jamaican superheroes as an example. And that's what we're pushing.
When it comes to Heroes of the Last Q, that is an ongoing series of my own that I've been slowly creating more and more in terms of the story and how it unfolds.
Characters are important because they have their own personality and representation, whether it's their country or race.
Heroes of the Last Q. As far as Heroes of the Last Q, I'm hoping that we could get that actually animated into an actual cartoon. With the advancements in technology and AI and everything, is not as expensive to do animation as it was. So that's something that I hope to do in the future. I know Van's son, Van Jr., he does stop motion with the Heroes of the Last Q with the action figures, which is wonderful.
Well, the comic book character that's starting out more, again, the basic format of literacy. So Dr. Toxic started out initially as being a book, and then of course having it broke down in terms of a text form to go inside of, say, a coloring book. But the actual Dr. Toxic character was just a villain character that was representing all the bad things that have to do with the environment, be it global warming, be it climate change, be it tackling issues like lead paint, tackling issues like sustainable blueprint is already out there. So an example would be you have already situations that people are already familiar with. So for instance, you have Marvel characters, and there's a collaboration sometimes, as an example, with, say, the Justice League. And so what we're doing is whenever it has the possibility of a promise of connecting one particular entity with another. So Dr. Toxic in the future will be included in some of the things that Van Stone Productions is doing, and tying him in with some of the things that you just mentioned. And it'll be sort of, I guess you could say, a Van Stone production similar to the Justice League that maybe the Marvel people have already.
Van Stone is a diverse person, not just of what he does in the community, but let's see what he wants in the future and advice for the youth.
Last Q is to turn the animation into something where people can get it, whether it's on the big screen or the little screen. A little screen is, simply put, like I said, you can go online, have that set up animation-wise, and you can watch it yourself on YouTube. Or some big movie company pick up Heroes of the Last Q and follow the storyline and see how important it is today, especially dealing with civics and government, but also youth, because Heroes of the Last Q, the heroes in this case, most of them are youth, or they're teenagers, or they may even be a little younger than teens. So that's a great thing for that. As far as Philadelphia Front Page News, we want that to carry on and be bigger and grow. We have over 1 million listeners and viewers. You can go to www.fpnnews.org. Once again, that's www.fpnnews.org. And you can read the online newspaper and magazine. We want to expand that and have more youth-involved writers tell their stories, even if it's through poetry. I would tell my young self to work even harder, because hard work is so important. And it's about the rewards of the hard work, not just awards.